In a world where voices rise like waves crashing against the rocks, where men believe that speaking more grants them power, the Stoic stands unmoved. He understands a truth lost to the many, that silence is not the absence of power, but its greatest expression. Words are spent cheaply, scattered like dust in the wind, but silence is precise, deliberate, and unshakable. It is the mark of the disciplined mind, the weapon of those who rule themselves before they ever seek to rule others. The weak speak to fill the void, to soothe their own fears, to impress, to defend, to explain what should need no explanation. But the strong, the wise, they speak only when necessary, and when they do, their words are like the strike of a blade, sharp, swift, and final. To master silence is to master oneself, and to master oneself is to hold dominion over any room, any situation, any storm that life may bring. The men who have truly conquered life have done so not with loud declarations, but with restraint. The generals, the philosophers, the leaders, they knew that silence unsettles the fool, demands attention from the wise, and bends the will of those who do not understand it. Today, the world teaches you to shout, to argue, to make your presence known. But the Stoic does not compete in this game. He listens, he waits, and he controls. Because silence is not mere emptiness. It is space where the mind sharpens, where the fool reveals himself, where true strength is forged. It is a force, a presence, an unshakable command over oneself and the world. And those who wield it wield power beyond what words could ever grant. The power of silence in a noisy world. Everywhere you turn, there is noise. The endless chatter of people who have nothing to say, the arguments over trivial matters, the opinions, the reactions, the desperate attempts to be heard. Yet, amidst this chaos, the strongest presence in the room is often the one who says nothing. Silence is power because it forces others to fill the void. When you do not react, when you do not give them the response they expect, they falter. They reveal more than they intended. Their words become weapons against themselves. The man who speaks less listens more. He absorbs, he calculates, he understands. The more you listen, the more you learn. And the more you learn, the greater your ability to act with precision. 2. Why words are often a trap. Words are not always weapons. More often they are chains. They bind you to explanations, to justifications, to reactions you did not need to give. The moment you speak, you give the world a tool to use against you. How many men have lost everything because of words spoken in haste? How many reputations have crumbled because of a thoughtless remark? The wise man knows that silence is rarely regretted, but words spoken carelessly often are. Speak when necessary, but let your silence be your fortress, protecting you from the snares of an impulsive tongue. 3. The Stoic view on restraint and control. Epictetus said, "If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. Words have no power unless you give them power." The Stoic does not allow himself to be dragged into emotional reactions. He controls himself first, and in doing so, he controls everything else. Self-restraint is the foundation of discipline. It is not weakness to hold back, it is strength. The ability to remain calm while others lose themselves in their emotions is the mark of a man who has mastered himself. 4. How silence commands respect and authority. A man who speaks little is a man whose words carry weight. When you do not waste words, people listen when you choose to speak. They understand that when you speak, it matters. Look at the great leaders of history. They did not win battles with words. They won them with strategy, with action, with presence. Their silence was a force in itself. Respect is not given to the loudest man in the room. It is given to the one who controls himself, who exudes strength in his restraint. 5. Mastering emotional detachment through silence. When you refuse to react emotionally, you strip others of their power over you. They expect anger, frustration, defense. When you give them nothing, they lose control of the situation. Silence is not just the absence of speech. It is the absence of weakness. It is the ability to remain unshaken when provoked, to refuse to let the world dictate your emotions. A man who is ruled by emotion is a man who can be controlled, but a man who controls his emotions is untouchable. 6. When to speak and when to withhold. Speaking is a choice, and like any choice, it must be made wisely. Before you speak, ask yourself, does this need to be said? Will these words serve a purpose, or are they merely a reaction, a need to fill silence out of discomfort? If the words do not serve a purpose, if they do not strengthen your position, they are better left unsaid. 7. The hidden strength in observing more and talking less. The more you observe, the more you understand. The fool speaks to prove what he knows. The wise man remains silent to learn what he does not. In silence, you see what others miss. You notice the shifts in tone, the unspoken words, the true intentions behind what is said. You hold the advantage because while others reveal themselves, you remain unreadable. 8. How to disarm conflicts without saying a word. Silence is not just defense, it is a weapon. When faced with anger, with provocation, silence robs the other person of their control. A fight requires two participants. When one refuses to engage, the conflict loses its fuel. Do not meet aggression with aggression. Meet it with calm. Meet it with the unshaken force of silence, and watch as it breaks before you. 9. Very dramatic, sudden, and moment of pain, like a cliff rock of heaven, a skewer of a pain. Growth does not come from speaking, it comes from reflection, from stillness, from time spent in thought. A man who is always speaking has no time to think. He is too busy hearing his own voice to hear the lessons the world offers him. In silence, wisdom grows. In silence, the mind sharpens. 10. Winning in life by mastering the art of saying less. A man who speaks only when necessary is a man who holds power over himself. He does not waste energy. He does not give others tools to use against him. He moves with purpose, speaks with precision, and acts with wisdom. Master silence, and you master control. Master control, and you master life. 11. The greatest Stoics who used silence as a weapon. Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca. They did not rule with words alone. They ruled with action, with discipline, with the ability to restrain themselves when others could not. They knew that silence was not weakness, but strength, that the most powerful man in the room is often the one who speaks the least. 12. Final reflections on the ultimate power of silence. Silence is not emptiness, it is presence, it is control, it is power. A man who learns to wield silence does not need to raise his voice to command respect. He does not need to explain himself to be understood. His strength is evident in his restraint, his wisdom in his quiet observation. The world will try to pull you into noise, into reaction, into endless speech. Resist it. Hold your ground. Speak only when it serves you. And in doing so, you will find yourself not only in control of your words, but in control of your life.